Hey, party people. I went to go sit out on my favorite spot on the porch, and there's hornets. This is like the third time that I've had to kill these suckers off, and they just keep coming back. They love our front porch. They're driving me crazy. I thought I got rid of them for good this time, and last laugh is on me. Because I saw a bunch of them flying over my head, and I'm like, what are they doing back? Because I didn't see, one of their little homes. And sure enough, I look up, and there it is, right above my head. The one was even, I feel like, taunting me. It was like hovering right in front of my face, like, yeah, you keep trying, we keep coming back. I was like, this one's a little smart ass. Good Lord. So I had to come inside because there's a ton of them. And the last time I didn't use spray, and I did it myself with like the end of a broom. And I know that can be super dangerous. And I'm very lucky that I did not get stung, because that wouldn't have been fun. So now I'm determined to get rid of these little suckers for good. Driving me nuts. I was thinking, I've been around people, and I really feel sorry for them. And not in the like, woe is you, like poor you, because there's a pretty big difference between sympathy and empathy. And sympathy is not always helpful. Empathy is sourced from a different part of our higher self and our brain. I really believe that. And I think sympathy can almost be detrimental. So I've been around older people. And when I say older, I don't know, there are people that like turn 40 and act like they're half dead. And I just don't understand this. I don't understand this mentality, that mindset. And I'm so happy we're living in a time where you turn 40 and it's like, yeah, I feel like the energy and the consciousness has shifted to like, I've got so much more life in me yet. And maybe that's because that's how I feel, even on my worst days, or those are the people that I choose to listen to and surround myself with in real world situations. But yeah, it's so challenging for me when I hear people allow their age to dictate circumstances, or use their age as an excuse for less mobility, or, the aches and pains. I mean, don't get me wrong. If there's something definitively, diagnosable, that's different. I'm not talking about that, but we have so much more power and control over our health and wellness than I think we realize. And we're seeing that huge turn in the medical field where doctors are now like, yeah, how well are you sleeping? What are you drinking? How much is your alcohol intake? What's the quality of your water? What foods are you eating? I mean, I think we're seeing that more and more, even in the less open-minded doctors that might not be completely holistically aligned, or they don't still give much credence to alternative modalities, but they now understand more about, nutrition and sleep, etc. And I don't love listening to people who are like, well, if I could do it, you could do it. And when I was 40, and when I was 50, and when I was in my 60s, and when I was 75, and not really, it can be inspiring for sure, 110%. But we're not them, and they're not us. And, I think there are a lot of people stuck in a really bad place who hear that out of someone's mouth, and it's like not super helpful. And it's kind of like kicking a dog while they're down, per se, because it's it's just, that might be so unattainable in the moment for that person. So they need to maybe listen to somebody who's like more grounded or practical or offering like real world tips, tricks, and tools to get there. But a lot of the hard things that I did in my life and a lot of the super adventurous things that I've done in my life have been after I turned, it was like 40 and after. And so I like to share these things because it is possible. And I still struggle with chronic pain, and I still have really big flare-ups from remnants of Lyme or whatever the heck it is that they just can't ever pinpoint with me and never could since I've been a kid. And I just think I fall into that smaller percentage and category where, I really do suffer from energetic sickness. I mean, it is a thing. People get really eye rolly when they hear that, like, oh, she's one of those. But energy sickness is real. I mean, it's like to me, I can analogize that to gaslighting being allowed to be used in the court of law. And they now give credence to what gaslighting does emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and spiritually to a person's brain, and the enormous amount of trauma that is incurred from gaslighting. And so I can't prove to anybody, but the symptoms are too bizarre. Nothing makes sense. And I know now, like I was around this person, I don't feel good. I was at this place, I don't feel good. I mean, I've had jobs make me extremely sick. And so I'm a big believer in that. And despite all of that, I have found a way to do the things that I love without killing myself. And so I actually became a yoga teacher because of racing triathlons. And when I started racing triathlons, I was closer to 40 years old when I raced my first triathlon. And I just did sprints. Hats off to Ironman people, Olympic distance. My friend and one of my yoga mentors and dear friend used to do the Triple T, and I think it was out in Ohio, where they did 3 or 4 Olympic distance Ironmans in 2 days in the span of a weekend. Like, to me, that's like banana nuts crazy. I was never fit for endurance. I'm fast. I'm quick. Like, I like to get in and out. Like, I'm going to do a HIIT workout, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I'm done. I'm going to go beat the crap out of a, punching bag for 30 minutes and I'm done. I was never built to be like a cross-country runner or an endurance athlete. And partially how I found that out was racing triathlons. I absolutely loved the swimming. I mean, swimming in the ocean, open water, swims at 5:30 in the morning with, a slew of people. Scary, one of the scariest things I've ever done. Always convinced, could never get it out of my head. My irrational fears, and I have many, that I was going to get eaten by a shark. And there's nothing scarier on a super foggy day out in the middle of the ocean, early in the morning, before the sun has come up, or as the sun is coming up. And, but on these days, there'd be no sun. It's so dark and gray out there. We're talking Jersey Shore water. This is not Caribbean crystal blue water. This is like gray, black water on a cloudy, foggy day. And it did happen to many. You're forewarned of this moment. Almost everybody goes through it, where you lift your head up in the water and you're alone. You've just lost your group. And it was the first time that it happened to me. I really thought I was going to die. I was like, I'm going to die, or by my own insanity, or I'm going to get eaten by a shark. And I did not die. And you have to swim on an angle to sidestep the rip tides. And I was able to finally, because there's piers, I was able to see a pier, and you always want to swim towards a pier on an angle. And I was able to get myself out and then told my coach, nope, done. I'm not going to do it. I hadn't even raced yet. I hadn't even competed. Not going to do it. Nope. And he was like, yeah, you are. See you tomorrow, 5:30 in the morning. You're going to meet me here, you and I, and you're going to get your ass back in the water and you're going to overcome this fear. And thank God he did that. I mean, and that's like exposure therapy in the psychology world. I mean, if he didn't do that, I don't know what would have happened. And I love the water. I was always like a mermaid when I was a kid. And he did. He met me and we got back in, and I did wind up competing, and I did sprints. So these are like little mini triathlons. It's like some of the hardest stuff I've ever done. And I placed second in my age group, the first race, and then third in my age group, the second race. I might have been 40 years old, actually, when I raced my first one. Yeah, I might have been 40 or 39-ish, somewhere around there. And it terrified me, but I just, when something falls in your lap and you make a shit ton of excuses for it not to happen, but it's got to be meant to be because it just happens. So I was like, well, I don't have a swim cap. And I had 10 people handing me swim caps. Well, I don't have goggles. Here's goggles. I don't have a swimsuit. Here's a swimsuit. Do you know how much racing bikes are? Thousands of dollars. There was a woman, she was so wealthy. She's like, you know what? This was like a $2,500, $3,000 bike. I'm going to get a new one. Here, have it. Oh, you need bike shoes? Here, what size foot are you? I had so many people rallying around me who wanted me to do this, and I didn't. And I was like, well, I needed something. I was so steeped in complex trauma at that time. My life was so dark and dim. And I'm telling you, if these people did not show up on my doorstep and make this happen, I don't know where I would have been. And it really woke my body and my brain up because it was terrifying. I think we are so afraid to do the things that we're afraid of, and we don't understand how much our brain needs that. And your brain is designed to make you feel safe. So of course, having to override those mechanisms is really the biggest challenge versus actually doing it and accomplishing it. And so I rock climbed for the first time at 46, and I'm petrified of heights. And I kept reading up on this, and people kept telling me, and it took a hot minute because I was not convinced. Everybody was like, yeah, you could get over your fear of heights real quick with rock climbing. And I was like, what? That is so counterintuitive. But this one girl's husband was petrified, and now they rock climb all over the Carolinas. And I mean, they are conquering huge mountains. And I was like, well, this is expensive as hell, but I'm going to pay for a private because I didn't want other people's fears getting in my way. I just kind of wanted it to be my own anxiety and my own brain at work with the guide. And I told her, I said, you might be very unsuccessful with me. She, said, we work with a lot of people like you who have a fear of heights. She brought me to a very beginner spot close by. And she said, you can drive separately or you can drive with me. I said, I think I need to be in the cart with you just to calm myself down. And I told her, you might not have any success. I don't really know if I'm going to go beyond 5-10 feet. And I could not believe that I climbed 90 feet and got myself back down the mountain by myself, all like a big girl. And I can't tell you how much that changes your brain when you do these things that are so, counterintuitive or just so outside your comfort zone. And I hope that I have many more adventures to come because I really fully am convinced that this is the answer to youth, is kind of bypassing those mechanisms in the brain. We now know, we understand neuroplasticity of the brain, and our brain is pliable. And so we have all of this information, like fuck Botox, like go do something zany. Go ziplining or do something that you never thought you would do and shake up the snow globe reality of your life and have yourself an adventure and just feel the fear and do it anyway. It could be anything, public speaking. If you're a writer, I was a writer in the closet forever. Now I've been focusing more on videos for a very specific reason, to be honest, that I'm not going to disclose, but I was writing more and I started a Substack account and my writings, it really took a lot for me to put my writings out on Facebook. At the time I had a Facebook account, and when I say following, I say this loosely because I really could give a crap about, I'm not an influencer. I don't do this for money. I don't ask people for donations. I have no delusions of grandeur that oh my gosh, I'm going to have thousands and thousands of followers. I'm not going to be the next like Russell Brand. It's not my goal. I don't even have a big goal with this. I just do this because I want to, because I think it's valuable with my 52 followers. Thank you so much for being here. But I don't have this idea in my head that this is going to take off someday and go somewhere. And I'm just going to be this household name. Listen to this girl because she really knows what she's talking about. You know what I mean? Like, whoever is here. Great. Thank you so much. I love that you're here. Really, I deeply appreciate you. But I just do it because I think it's valuable to sit and listen to a regular Joe talk about real life stuff. Because most of the people out there are trying to sell you a formula, right? It is their business. And although my business name is attached to this, it's, this is it. I'm just going to come on here and talk about real life stuff as a real life person. And that's it. It's either going to float your fancy or it's not. And if it doesn't, that's totally cool. But this is the intention behind all of this. And so as a regular person with an enormous amount of fear, like if people understood, I went hiking yesterday. I wasn't that high up, but I was high enough up that you had to walk across the top of the mountain. And if you walked out far enough, you were at the edge. Now there was a wide space. I don't know how to explain this, but in my mind, I could have died any second. This is what happens because there's a difference between a fear and a phobia. And I have a phobic fear of heights. Now, weirdly enough, being at the bottom of a mountain and using a rope to climb yourself up, and I love to climb, and you really don't use your hands as much as you think you do in rock climbing. It's really all legs. Because there's part of the mountain that are completely flat and there's nowhere for you to put your hands. You don't even think there's anywhere for you to put your feet. And what I loved about the guide that I had was there a point I was just stuck. I felt like I can't go any further. There's nowhere for me to go because all my hands wanted to do was hold on to something and push myself up. And she's like, Carrie, use your legs and feet. And finally, really loud, almost like she was yelling at me, but she's a very kind, loving person. She goes, just go, stop thinking, get out of your head, go. And I did. And I actually went so quickly that I made it to the top of that 90 feet. But at one point, I just got myself stuck. How metaphoric for life, right? Just like the everyday stuff of life, where you kind of sometimes need that cheerleader, that person to be like, just do it. You're totally in your head. There's always a way. Because at that moment, if it weren't for her there, I would have just went back down. Because in my mind, I had nowhere to go. I had everywhere to go. I was just in my own way. And so I think that the key to staying youthful, the wrinkles are going to come. Things might start to sag beyond like walking, hiking, so amazing for you. Weight training, yoga, I'm whatever it is, Tai Chi, Qigong, you're going to do Jiu-Jitsu, Aikido, like go do it. All that stuff is great. But I think it's the moments when we really test ourselves. Like on that mountain yesterday, I am going to be honest with you. I got so nervous that I backtracked, and there were two girls cleaning up their campsite on the mountain. And I went back and I said, hey, I'm following all trails. This doesn't make sense to me. They're like, oh no, you have to walk across the top of the mountain and just, you'll see the trailhead, like you'll pick it up. And I was like, how long is this going to be? Because everything in me wanted to talk myself out of it. And I was like, no. And I was by myself. I do a lot of hiking on my own. And I was like, no, I don't. And there was a guy, there was like a bypasser, backpacker, and he was cracking up laughing at me. And I looked at him and I was like, I'm not kidding. Like, I am convinced I'm going to die. But you can't, if you don't get it, you don't get it. Especially if you're a daredevil and like, you'll go like base jumping or jumping out of an airplane. But I made it. And it really terrified me, but I did it. And now I can do that trail again and it will be easy peasy. I don't know if I would do it in the rain. There were parts that were wet and that terrifies me because if you fall, it's like, what do you do? There's really nowhere to hold on to. You're just going to go off the side of the mountain. But I did it. And that changes your brain. It changes the chemistry of your brain. Neurons are firing differently. Again, that neuroplasticity of the brain. And, I don't mean to like, again, if you watch my videos and you watch them completely, because I know most people don't have the brain span these days to watch anything beyond 10 minutes. But, the whole concept of like looking in the mirror and saying, I love you, and like looking in the mirror and talking to yourself. And that's like going to, supposedly build self-love and boost your confidence. And I was so entrenched in these very esoteric, spiritual, new agey practices for so long, and like nothing was shifting for me. Again, I'm not saying don't play in that playground, but I can tell you that the more clinical based, peer reviewed, sciencey stuff is what got me more out of the trauma loop. All the spiritual stuff coupled with that, but it had to become very grounded spiritual practices. And I don't agree with anyone who sits and says to you, look in a mirror and tell yourself that you love yourself every day and you are going to feel so confident in yourself. No, you know what builds confidence? Growing a set of balls and doing hard shit. That's what builds your confidence. What builds your confidence is enhancing a sense of accomplishment within yourself. It's not even about maintaining or smashing all of your goals out of the park. It's picking one hard thing, doing it, and accomplishing it. That's what builds your confidence. Competency is confidence. When you feel competent, you have a sense of control. So you're enhancing your internal locus of control. You're building that inner resilience and you're feeling very autonomous and you're feeling confident. That's how you build your self-esteem. I mean, these people are wasting years of their life with mirror work when you just go and do something different. And I'll give you a prime example of this. And my daughter loves talking about this, my youngest, my baby girl, who's going to be 22 the end of October. Oh, gosh, I can't believe it. But, so she's not really my baby, but she is my baby. If you're a parent, you understand. So my little one, my oldest, was always a force to be reckoned with. She had strong warrior energy. We used to joke that if you were like bleeding out on the sidewalk, my oldest would walk by you and be like, hope you, good luck. Hope you figure that out. She just had a very specific personality. She actually has the biggest heart in the world, and a lot of that warrior type of energy has been tempered. But think like Joe Rogan. That was kind of my oldest personality. Super high achiever, very skilled and gifted in multiple areas of her life, and type A personality to the nth degree. I thought I was type A until I birthed this kid into being. But my youngest was a marshmallow. She was my little love bug, and she was just a marshmallow. And I loved that about her. But as she got older, and especially being a girl in the world, I was like, this kid's got to toughen up. You know, she just has to. She needs to be a little bit thicker skinned, because life was really beating her up. And so I was training and working out at a facility, and the owner was active duty Marine, and I adored him. And he really kicked your butt, and everyone who worked for him kicked your butt, and his wife also worked there on occasion. And so my youngest daughter was training with me. I was trying to get her into weight training, because that really gives you a sense of strength and, you know, just even focus, concentration, but mentally you feel stronger. And then emotionally, weight training does an enormous amount for you emotionally. Like if you're feeling really emotionally wrecked, I'm telling you, pick up a pair of weights and start weight training. Start small, slow and steady wins the race. But she says, Mom, I think I want to start working out with you at this place. Because I was kind of trying to nudge her in that direction. But, you know, if you're a parent, again, when you know, you know. When it comes from a parent, it usually goes in one ear and out the other. So I just learned very quickly as my girls got older that I needed to like be hands off or back off for the most part, or, you know, try to plant the seeds and then let them make their decision. And so she started working out with me. And I'll tell you what, to this day, she still talks about Austin. She actually told me the other day she might start going back. He whooped her. I've never seen my kid. I mean, there were days, it was a very competitive environment, but fun competitive. And there were times he would pit me against my daughter. And I have some obscene strength. And there was a day where she kicked my ass. And I was never so proud of her. Whatever he had us competing in, he's like, oh, Mom, she's whooping your butt. And I was like, heck yeah, she is. And good for her. I mean, I had people telling me, your daughter looks amazing. And she said to me, I never commented on how much weight she lost. I never commented on how much the shape of her body changed. I never commented at how much better she looked. Not because she lost weight, not because she shrunk in inches, not because she gained muscle. I could see the confidence shining off of her. I could see it. She glowed. And she said to me, Mom, I have never felt so good about myself, and I have never felt so confident in my whole life. And so I saw that transformation. So I think this whole idea of like the more passive practices serve a purpose, but I just don't believe that they get you there. I think that you really need to put some elbow grease into it and do the hard stuff. You know, we're meant to do hard things. We're really meant to do hard things. And so when I see these older people moaning and groaning, you know, the aches and the pains, I wish more people understood that there is a way to move through that and like come out the other side. And this is somebody with chronic pain. You know, like today's not a really good day for me. I taught 2.5 classes. I went for an hour plant walk with our master gardener where I work. She's wonderful. I learned so much. She's just a wealth of knowledge. And that was a really lovely treat for me today that I was able to do that. I was actually supposed to teach 2 other classes today, but it's with the kids and they are on a camping, the young adults, and they're on a camping expedition. But, you know, sometimes I have to back off. My body lets me know, but there are ways to bypass. And a lot of that is appropriate breathing, proper breathing, and stretching, and complementing, coupling the intense yang-based practices, the more contractive practices, with the more yin-based expansive practices. That's why yoga is such a great complement to intense physical exercise. And so, of course, you only do movement, according to your capabilities. But just going out and having an adventure, or like I said, putting your writing out there. It was really hard for me to put my writing out there. I'm not the best writer, but I'm not the worst writer. But it was like, no, I have something to say. And that is the hardest part about being a more artistic, creative-minded person, is bypassing am I going to be rejected? Who's going to give me crap? I had a lot of people tell me that my aspirations and dreams and goals were just frivolous because I don't fit into the 9 to 5, work 40, 50, 60 hours a week and just keep grinding away. You're trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. It never works. But I really encourage people, anyone watching who's like afraid to try something new, frickin' do it. It's so life-changing. You just alter everything. You can shift your whole reality by one decision. I went on a trip to Portugal. I love Europe. I love to travel. My friend's out in Lisbon. We went to high school together, and her parents were born and raised in Portugal. And then her parents raised her and her sister in America, and then her and her sister moved back to the States when she was, a little bit out of high school. We'd lost track of each other. We found each other again on social media. And I was like, I'm going to fly out to see you. I don't love to fly. Never mind fly alone. But this was my second trip out to Europe where I did it myself, flew myself out there. My first one was a wellness retreat to Italy. And then my second one was the trip to Portugal to see my friend. And we had an amazing time. And I didn't love the getting there and the coming home a lot. But I can't stop myself from living my life. You have to work very hard to break through your fears. Look into exposure therapy if you're interested in this. It's really, really fascinating. They'll use it for anything, super basic stuff like spiders, or I can't get on an elevator, which is, I know, a bigger thing. People like me that are afraid of heights, thinking I was going to die out in the ocean. You ask my daughters. My daughters laugh hysterically. They tell everyone. My mom has an I almost died story. She's got a ton of them, because I do. Because I have all these insane, irrational fears that take me over, and then I just force myself. I went on a helicopter ride. We got married in Hawaii, my ex-husband and I, because everybody was driving us crazy. And I was like, isn't this about us? And I had a baby in my belly, and I was stressed to the max. Of course, I wasn't supposed to fly to Hawaii 4 months pregnant, but oh well. One of the most beautiful places I've ever been to, by the way. And poor Maui. Just keep praying for Maui. So sad. I have a friend out there, and it's just been devastating. I have a lot of opinions and ideas and thoughts about that, but I won't share them here. We got married in Hawaii, and my ex-husband is, well, you know what? He's not really a big daredevil anymore. He used to do crazy stuff when he was back in the yesteryears. But, helicopter rides are big out there because you can see the volcanoes, you can see the waterfalls, and Carrie is not a fan of small aircrafts that are known to crash. And I was 4 months pregnant. Well, he got me up in that damn helicopter, and he got me to do some things. He got me to do a lot of things that I didn't want to do, but I was grateful for that because I have this weird thing where I love adventure, but I'm so scared. We went bell diving. I was terrified to be underwater with this big glass bulb over my head. Coolest experience, but I was convinced that I was going to drown, that the mechanics were going to go wrong. Then we were snorkeling, which I love snorkeling. And I was like, I know a shark's going to eat me right now, so just say goodbye. This is how insane I can be. But I still do it, and I still end up having fun. Somehow, I still have a blast. But he got me up in this damn helicopter. You got to sign your life away, by the way. And I was green. He paid for the video because I was so green. Because they sat me, the pilots, I was like, do you know who you're putting in charge of all this? Sat me in the front in between him and my ex-husband. And then there were two people in the back. There was another couple in the back. And he's like, so listen, Carrie, you have like the most important job on this helicopter. I was like, job? I don't want a job. I'm 4 months pregnant and I don't even want to be on this aircraft. And he's like, don't push that because you'll send us into a spin. And if you touch this, you'll eject us. So I just sat like a mummy. And my ex-husband looked at me and he's like, you are green in the face. And the guy's like, yeah, you can pay for a video. And my ex-husband's like, done, paying for the video. Just because of how miserable I was on the helicopter. And it was pretty funny watching the video when we got home. But again, changes your whole brain chemistry, changes your outlook on life. It really does shake up the snow globe reality of your life. We're meant to do these things. Even just a simple road trip to somewhere different scenery, different people, different landscape. Or we can get even more basic and find another road to travel to work. Take a different train, go a different path. Sometimes we get mad when we have to detour, right? Like work traffic. And I kind of go, okay, this is inconvenient, but I'm really working my brain here and I'm doing something different. And that's why it's important to change up your morning routine, change up your bedtime routine, and not be afraid of change and embrace change, because that's really, really the way to have a healthy, young, vibrant life, to generate a lot of youthfulness inside of yourself. And it's amazing for your brain. And it really does help to combat things like dementia, just keeping that brain pliable. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, because I'm conjuring up my next adventure. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I was thinking of rock climbing again, but my new roommate, when he moves in, he's never been whitewater rafting. So we were talking about that. So maybe Charles and I will go whitewater rafting together. And I am terrified, convinced that I'm going to drown. I'm going to get stuck under the boat. It's going to be horrific. Insanity, right? Insanity. But we can't trust that all the time. At least I can't trust my brain all the time. I'd have zero life. I would do nothing. I'd be the most boring person on the planet. Bye, y'all.